We go in firing range again?
Yeah. I'm gonna jump now. Look at that. Look at that jump. We jumped together.
We jump together. I hope this is still firing range. I think it is.
I'm gonna land American. The flag
American
building.
is at the far
can
left build or far right
Yeah,
building?
far right. Let's go. Let's both go there because that has enough loot for both of us.
Looks like there's someone else landing here
okay,
too.
all right, let's go.
Too late.
Wait. All right.
Freaking battle now.
You gotta go. Oh! You're shooting me. You were shooting me. You were shooting me.
I was killing you.
I was like, who's shooting me? Who's shooting me? I don't even turn around and you killed me. I was like, who's the I'm crying. Hold
on. What's up, my nuggets? MisterFantasmo here, and today we have a we're gonna try to get a Call of Duty gameplay, okay? But you can see how my allergic reaction to battle royales just continues to persist. It doesn't seem like I'm pretty much just that weird sort of like fox in the dog shelter, except for a fox in the dog shelter sounds like it would be way more dangerous than I am, unless you're my teammate, apparently, and then I'm kind of dangerous to you. But anyways, this particular commentary, I would like to say, goes out to ESP0117, who asked, "Hey, I enjoy anything you play, but could you play some Apex?" And I'm here to say, ESP, that yes, we did jump over into Apex after I murdered Blev in cold blood, because I was wondering if maybe there was a battle royale that wouldn't allow me to do that. And wouldn't you know, ESP, you're like my psychic medium, because you knew that we were about to hop over into Apex. We got a couple wins. This was the last game of the night, and I felt like it was a pretty good win with me and Blev and some random teammates. So it was also a long enough gameplay where I felt like I could address the things that I wanted to talk about in this commentary, and I've been waiting for like the perfect time to talk about these things, and like for all the stars to align, and then I can ease it in through a couple transitionary commentaries talking about, this is coming, because it's a different kind of commentary, but it's something that I feel like I need to do, just so we can be transparent with each other, because I think that I owe that to you guys, at least. If you're still coming to this channel and you're still trying to give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm going to keep coming back to this channel and keep posting content, then I think it's only fair that you guys know what exactly transpired and how it transpired when I kind of went dark from YouTube. Because, I mean, all I have to really do is say that. I don't really have to over-explain that, do I? Everybody kind of knows what I'm talking about there, but I really think that that instance, which was not the greatest instance, but there's also been several other instances in my life where I've just had this, you could say I've had this history with extreme experimentation. It's what got me into Call of Duty commentaries in the first place, and what would eventually lead me back out of them as well, as you guys know. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to Modern Warfare 2. Let's go back to the Premier Director days, to Frat Boys, all of that. The entire original blossoming of my channel, you could say, was also centered around this new world of university life. I was going to college for the first time, as well as experimenting with YouTube. And college is a place full of new independence and responsibility, as well as really great internet. Like that was the thing that I wish, I guess, with how I turned out and how focused I was on technology and figuring out how to get in there and tinker with it so much, I wish I would have had access And I know that you guys, if you've been on this channel for a while, you already know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyways just because, oh man, it would be so interesting. It would just be so interesting to see where I would be right now if I would have had internet while I was growing up with my parents, because I might not even be talking to you guys right now if I didn't have that withholding all through middle school, all through high school. It was just AOL, like dial-up connection. That was the fastest we ever got at my parents' house. Until I graduated into college, where I could go somewhere and stay there permanently and have a permanent super fast connection speed to the internet. I mean, at the time it was super fast. Anything comparatively to my parents' place was super fast, but it was a whole new opportunity that I think really made me ask myself the question and try to explore, well, how crazy can I go with this? Like, this seems like so amusing to me and so enjoyable to me to just be able to have this internet connection. Like, what's the furthest I can push this? And so that was kind of my first sort of experimentation, like extreme experimentation with YouTube and with the internet, kind of came from that. I started digging into weird corners of the internet, and at the time, Call of Duty commentaries was a very weird corner to wind up on. But I did wind up on it because along with this internet connection, I was now able to not have to go over to my friend's house every day after basketball practice and just play with my M16 in Call of Duty 4 anymore. I could actually go and buy a game copy of my own and a game system of my own. Well, I already had the game system because I was playing way too much Guitar Hero, because that's the only thing that really didn't require an internet connection that I enjoyed. But now I was able to play online with people. And so I eventually, I don't know the specific night. I don't remember it like a romantic scene or anything in my brain, although I probably should. But something was whispering to me. I don't know if it was XCal's, I think it was commentary-less gameplay. And then I went and found another channel called Only Use Me Blade, and this guy was playing Call of Duty in a weird way. He was just kind of knifing people. All he would do is knife people, and that's how he would play the entire game.
What's up, guys? It's Only Use Me Blade.
Hence his name. But he was also commentary. He was doing some commentary over it. And after I saw these two people, I was like, wow, okay, I'm inspired by this. I want to create something similar. So I took those two, and I kind of, it set my standards for gameplay initially so incredibly high, because you obviously have XCal, who doesn't even have to have commentary over his videos. They just speak for themselves so clearly because he's such a maniac. And then you have Only Use Me Blade, who might not be as insanely skilled, but also has the patience and the wherewithal to try to, get these gameplays where he's only using his knife and he's actually doing well. I knew that wasn't coming for him every game, but it was a cool sort of early production value to these things where I was like, okay, I can't just take any old gameplay and put it up there if I want to put it on YouTube. It kind of gave me, it was almost like my foster parents of YouTube, you could say. XCal and Only Use Me Blade. If you can imagine me as the offspring of XCal and Only Use Me Blade, just for a quick second.
Just do it. Just watch. Be patient. Oh, did you see that? Right there.
Then I think you would get a better idea of how I got my start on YouTube. But that's what eventually led me into Kill Streakless Nukes, and just approaching things, approaching different videos a little differently. Just making sure I didn't fall into this weird, obscure, less entertaining version of Only Use Me Blade and XCal. I put those two guys together, and that was my benchmark. So I set out and made some videos, and you guys obviously know how the beginning of my whole experimentation with YouTube went. But also, while I was having these foster parents in Call of Duty, and in the YouTube Call of Duty realm, where I remember realizing that this is what I wanted to do, and so I got my Hapog HD PVR. I think that's what it was called back in the day.
Everyone's gonna love this. This is for everybody. This is the HT PVR.
This huge bulky thing. It looked like a DVR receiver or some kind of TiVo device. And I convinced my dad to go 50-50 with it on me because, you know, I was a college kid at that point. And I'll never forget it when he actually agreed to it, and I was on its way. I was just like, oh man,
Everyone's gonna love this.
this is so amazing. This is like, I got so psyched. It was such ancient technology and software to get it started, but it took me, you had to like start recording before you knew you were gonna get the gameplay, and then but I could only store like maybe an hour's worth of time on my hard drive at any given point. So I had to do this constant reshuffling around, and I didn't even care. And that's when I know I'm like really in the throes of something and I'm really enveloped into something, because I don't care how much work it takes. Similar to how I'm working right now, where we're just like, we're streaming so much, and I'm trying to make so much YouTube content because I feel like that's really another vital core component of what it means to me to be a creator. And then obviously with Puf, we're doing a lot of music now, so we're creating music in a whole new way. And then I've also recently re-linked up with Kid Laser. There'll be more on that to come. But there's just so many things going on that it was, I loved it. Unfortunately, I loved it so much that college really kind of fell by the wayside. I won't say it was entirely college's fault, but I won't say it didn't have anything to do with college. Obviously, Call of Duty and YouTube were stepping in, but also at the same time, man, when I was graduating high school, I had senioritis like nobody's business. Like because I worked hard in grade school and all through grade school. I had pretty much straight A's, but by the time I was a senior, you know, I was starting to catch up on this whole act that everyone else seemed to have caught up to way earlier than me, probably because of external factors outside of school that I didn't have. I had a very cushy upbringing, so I didn't have to think very hard independently outside of what I was being told in my family circles. And obviously nobody knows everything and everybody's biased, so I was just getting fed all of this bias and kind of believing it. And one of the biases that I fell into was the college bias of, oh, okay, so once I hit college, or once I graduate high school, it'll be no more of this. It'll be no more of, you go to science, then you go to social studies, then you go to math, then you go to language arts, then you go to, you know, all these extracurriculars, and then you're done. It would just be, I'm going to go and focus on what I want to do. And I didn't even entirely know what I wanted to do. Initially, it was accounting because I saw dollar signs and I was like, yeah, that seems fine. I love math and I'm smart at it, so I could probably do well in accounting, and then I'd make money and not have to worry about money. Money was a big thing for me back in the day. It's not so much anymore. But I had all of these grand ideas about what would happen when I got into college, and then I got to college and it was like, all right, so go ahead and sign up for some classes. You're gonna need to sign up for a social studies, a science, language arts, a math. And I'm just like, wait a second, what? I thought we were done with this. I thought college was something entirely different from high school, but it was not. It was, at least it wasn't for me. Obviously in the beginning you have to do those sort of general education classes and things like that. And you know, eventually you can sort of drill down and really, for me, and what I knew that I wanted out of college, which was I didn't know what I wanted. There was so much opportunity to explore that they were trying to give me. But at the same time, I don't think that's how college should operate in the first place. I think if you go there and you're like, I'm not sure what I want to do, they should just turn you around and be like, all right, well, go live your life, go get a job and work a little bit and figure out what you want to do more and then come back. Instead, obviously, they're like, no, we'll take your money. Come stay with us for 5 years. And that was my college tour was 5 years. The first year was only half of it. And then I quit the second half, and I just stopped going. So it was a little weird for me with college, and I really don't think in hindsight that me, with my personality and what I wanted to go for in life, that I really needed college, aside from the internet connection that it gave me a consistent presence with, which, you know, consistent presence 9 months out of the year, and then the other 3 months I would have to go back home. I would have to go back to my parents' house. So as I was trying this YouTube channel where everybody obviously wants Call of Duty, they want it like every day, every other day, at least once a week, I would have these times where for 3 months out of the year I would just go dark, which was an unintentional pull away from YouTube. It was still this kind of it was a gap. It was a gap, and it was something that I feel was, something that maybe I could have been more clear about with you guys, and maybe I could have tried to fight it a little bit more, but I didn't realize everything that was happening. I guess that was the biggest. That's the biggest thing that I wanna highlight on with bringing college into the situation is I was understanding the world or trying to understand the world in a completely different way by going to college, because I was pledging my life to going to college for 4 years and then having to pay that debt back. But that debt, having done that, that would help me succeed in the business world or in the, in the commerce world or whatever. I was convinced that that was the only way out, because from my senior year in high school, when I had developed that strong case of senioritis and just started not caring about what we were doing here, I obviously focused my attention elsewhere, and everybody just seemed to be talking about what college they were going to. So it gets back to my whole like ignorance and blindness and the odd blissful calm before the storm that I was experiencing before I actually hit college and then ended up hitting the real world and getting all of these wake up calls. But yeah, it was hard to, when college ended, to pull away from everything that I had done in college as far as preparing me for this real world life, this real world job. But while I was in college, because I'm getting a little bit too far ahead of myself and jumping into the detachment, but there were things that you have to know about that were put in place beforehand that really made it might make it make more sense to you, I guess. So when I was in college, I was so wrapped up in YouTube. I was and so wrapped up in this sort of disdain that I had for these classes I was taking, but at the same time, I felt like I still needed to go to them and still needed to perform, but my attention was pulled in so many different ways that it was hard for me to focus on college courses like I had focused on my high school courses of the past. And so I was a bit scatterbrained, needless to say, but I definitely didn't have the mental capacity for any of this partying, any of the social structures that were built into the university. I was just so enveloped in my own little thing that, and in a way, I kind of acknowledge that I'm a hermit. Like, I kind of acknowledge that this is my default state of when I'm really in my creative zone. I just kind of prefer to be by myself, doing my own things and creating my own things. And then there will be times I've found now, this is future me talking, that I would need to go inhale some more, because I had exhaled so much creative energy and I was still trying to find more that it had just been expunged. And so those times before, I knew that I just needed to go out and treasure hunt, go experience the world and process it in your own special way, and then come back and convey that over things that you create. I didn't realize the balance to the process at the time, and I would get so heavily involved in creating videos that I would forget about the balance. And one of the people that really gave me that balance in college, and I think really the only person, if it wasn't for her, I don't think any of this would have really come to be, as far as like my real enjoyment with the actual college structure itself and not just their internet connection. And her name is Missy, and if you've heard of her before, then you are a longtime fan of the stream, because I actually started streaming while I was living with her. We lived above a bar together my last year in college, and I started streaming Spelunky. Man, that was forever ago. But before we lived together, I actually lived with a buddy of mine from high school who was on the basketball team. He was on our basketball team in high school. He was really good. I played with him. He pretty much carried us the whole season. We almost got state championships, I think. I think we were like runner-up or something. I don't know. I played against this guy, BJ Mullins, who I think went on to play like professional basketball or something. He was a complete giant.
Mullins will try the three out front. Comes right back to him. He'll come right down the lane.
He was like 2 times taller than me. It was absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, I was good friends with the guy who I played with on the team. And he went to Bowling Green, the same university that I went to. So we ended up rooming together you could say my junior and senior year, and then it was my senior plus year that I ended up hanging out with Missy. But we were living together, and obviously like he would go to all these sports parties, and that was like, I had gone to a couple of them, and I actually, the first one I went to, I pretended to be like another basketball player, which I found out was a really bad idea, because immediately all these girls started flocking to me. Two of them brought me into the bathroom, like immediately, as soon as I entered this party, and he introduced me as a new player on the basketball team that hadn't played a game yet. I was on like some injured reserve or something like that. I'll never forget it. They took me in, and then they had me stand in the bathtub, and they drew the shower curtain closed, and so I was just standing there in the bathtub by myself, and then one of the girls was peeing while the other girl was telling me some ridiculous story that I don't even know what it was about at this point, because I was so dumbfounded that I had 20 seconds into walking through the door, I had found myself with some kind of beer in my hand, standing in the bathtub alone. It was obvious for many reasons, aside from just that one night, but for many reasons, I found myself not really enjoying the social structure that the university sports teams were providing me. So I was just kind of, I had determined that I was just going to make YouTube videos alone in my room. And when I really wanted to party, I'd have a beer and play Guitar Hero. And that would be that. That would be the extremities, of my partying experience. That's the pretty much the penultimate of what I would reach, aside from, I don't know, getting super wild, right? Because you got to have those moments where you just go super wild. And one of those moments has to be your 21st birthday party, right? It's got to be. So I remember my 21st birthday party. I had 3 beers and played Guitar Hero in my room all night, and that was my 21st birthday. Like, I did not go out and drink with friends or anything. I just had 3 beers. I probably had like 4 or 5 or 6 maybe, because they were Natty Lights or Keystone Lights. Whatever I was drinking at the time, whatever watered down beer. And then that was it. And then I remember hearing people going next door. These people that were that I had met once before. I had met Missy once before. She offered to cut my buddy's hair. Him and a couple of his basketball teammates were kind of hanging out on our front porch, and Missy lived next door to us at the time. We were in a house off campus, and she did hair for a living. She's a hairstylist, and so she offered to cut their hair, and subsequently she cut my hair. She was the one that did all the lines in the side of my head and all the weird designs that I always had going on in the side of my head, because she was an artistic hairstylist. So she knew how to cut hair, but she also wasn't afraid to do weird things like that, which none of the other guys on the team got any lines in their head or anything like that. I think maybe my roommate got like some like very light, hardly noticeable lines, but then the coach noticed and he had to like get rid of them. So I don't think they could actually have them. But I remember her giving me those lines, and she was just, I don't know how to explain Missy to you if you haven't seen her or heard her before. If you've ever heard her and heard her laugh and her voice, then it'll give you a better summation of who she is.
Well, I'm going to bed / watch my stupid movie, because I definitely don't give a shit about Minecraft. Yeah, this is stupid.
You're stupid.
Ah!
You can't say something stupid until you've tried it. Like butt sex. Missy, I guarantee you, if you play this game, you'd like it.
I don't want to like that game.
Exactly.
That's different.
I'll do it right now.
No.
I'll walk you through it.
No.
And then you can get it on your Mac and play it.
Absolutely not.
Just always so excited and happy about what was happening. Anything that was happening, it was like, you guys want a haircut? Absolutely. And she'd find a way to because I mean, what's really happening here is someone's asking you to cut their hair and cut their friend's hair as a favor to them. No money involved, but you still see that as an opportunity to enrich your own life in some way, whether it be through conversation or just doing a favor for them. And so I knew that about her, and I knew, like, at the time of my 21st birthday. So when I was alone by myself, I actually had gone out to the front porch after I had got done playing Guitar Hero, and I was just kind of sitting there, looking at the road, watching the cars pass. And her and a bunch of her friends were coming home from the bars, so it must have been kind of late, semi-late at least. And they were walking past, and they saw me, and they just kind of looked over, and Missy was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I told them that I lied to them. I told them that it was my 21st birthday, which they got so excited about that I then had to lie. I was just like, "Yeah, and I've been going, like, it's so crazy. Like, I've just been getting so crazy. I've been out of my mind. Like, I don't even know where I've been. I don't know who I've met. I think I kissed like 3 or 4 girls tonight." And they were all just like, "Oh my God." Come to find out that Missy and all of her friends, which once I met Missy and after that night, Missy opened the door for me to all of her friends to hang out with them. And it was cool because none of them went to Bowling Green. They were actually all older. They had already graduated from Bowling Green. Most of them graduated from Bowling Green. Some of them went to Toledo, I believe, which is a neighboring university. But they still had that college spirit. Like, they still wanted to go out to the bars all the time and just enjoy the simple pleasures of a beer with some friends. And that was something that I had never experienced before, not to mention people who had already done it and wanted to experience it again. I hadn't experienced it in the first place, but to see it sort of passively from these people who weren't trying to, like all of the people at the sports drinking events, it seemed like they weren't trying to show you how fun partying was. They were just having fun, and then it was like a sort of example. It was just like, look, you can do this if you want. You don't have to. Like, we don't care either way, but we're having fun. And so that was more contagious to me than my initial experience, and that is what initially let me, like, sort of open the door. That encounter kind of really solidified and opened the door into their whole friend group, which I can say, looking back on college, was my friend group of college. I was friends with people who were not in college. I made some friends here and there in classes, but that was mostly it. It was mostly them. And it was all facilitated through Missy. Anytime I wanted to hang out with them, I would just go next door and hang out with Missy too, which was what eventually led us to, we lived together, and it was just the two of us living above a bar named Tubby's, and you just didn't want to go into our bathroom late at night. That was all it was, because it would legitimately vibrate. Obviously you could hear everything all the music that was being played, but it would legitimately, like, shake every single night. It was kind of awesome. I wouldn't want it now. And looking back, I wouldn't. After I graduated college, I pretty much was done drinking. Like, I had a couple more years left in me, which I guess is what Missy and her friends were on. But after that, I really fell off the wagon. Like, I got thrown into the wagon and I danced my ass off, and then I fell out of the wagon, and I never decided that it was worth going back to. But needless to say, Missy was pretty much the foster parent of all things college for me, just as Only Use Me, Blade, and XCal were the foster parents of my YouTube career and my YouTube upbringing initially. So yeah, the social structure, the drinking and the partying, all of that. Also, Missy wound up going back to college when we were living together. She went to Toledo, not to Bowling Green, but she went for ceramics and stuff like that. But yeah, I think just overall, Missy just put me at ease about things with her sort of, like, I don't give a crap attitude about things that you really shouldn't care about. So yeah, and not to mention that her friends were older as well, so it was kind of fun for everyone, because they had this, like, they loved having me as their, like, little beta, because I was, like, the initiate into this not only the circle of friends, but also into their sort of fraternity. And then at the same time, I loved it because they didn't treat me like shit. And they were fun, and they were like intelligent people to have conversations with, and they were on a more mature level that I feel like I gravitated towards. But then at the same time, they also never made a big deal about MisterFantasmo. Like it wasn't like a big thing especially when we were in big social circles. Like it wasn't like, oh, this guy's MisterFantasmo and he has a YouTube channel, which I really enjoyed. Like I just kind of liked being able to get away from it. And then when I came back to YouTube, obviously, I enjoyed making all the videos and everything. But it was just a cool symbiotic relationship that I had with them and all that big circle of friends. And we continued that right up through to the summer of my 5th year in college, when I was finishing up, and I was actually staying at Missy's parents' house. Missy's dad had just passed away, that was tough because I was there with her for that. That was when we lived together, and I remember that late at night and just kind of walking her to her car and just kind of giving her a hug and like just a really long hug, and just being like, hey, if you need me to drive, if you need me to do anything, just let me know. And she lived like 15 minutes away, so she just kind of drove there. But after that, it was obviously hard. She was an only child, so it was her mom and her, and then her dad was gone. And so they decided that summer to her mom bought an RV and just decided to travel around. And so they just traveled around. I think they went up into Maine and stuff like that. I think they also towed like a convertible car that they had as well. And they were just kind of off to see the sights. And, Missy's mom embraced much of the same things about life that Missy did. And the fact that she just, she was willing to acknowledge when things were important, obviously, but also she was very willing to acknowledge when things weren't as important and sort of seize the moment. And so during that summer, they went and traveled everywhere, and I got to look after the house and look after their pup. And so it was just me and the pup, and that's when we did some. Again, if you're a longtime fan of the stream, you'll remember we did some Diablo. I remember setting up the keyboard and mouse because that's how I played Diablo at the time. I think that's the only way you could play Diablo at the time, was on PC. I remember setting up the keyboard and mouse on top of a 2x4 on the railings of a treadmill. I like kind of had it braced so I could walk and play at the same time, because all I did was go to class and play video games. So I felt like I was sitting way too much. I was also zipping back and forth between them the whole time on my motorcycle. That's when I did the motorcycle vlogs and the lawn mowing vlogs, if you guys remember that.
If you have your windscreen down while you're mowing with your helmet on, you look a lot less crazy. It's just what I do. Day in, day out, I push the boundaries of what it means to be sane. If you see a guy mowing his yard in his helmet, just go out and kindly ask him to stop.
It was a cool experience for me to sort of like finish out my college experience. Geez, I still have nightmares to this day. And it sounds ridiculous to call it a nightmare, but it is a nightmare to me, because I'll wake up and have to like talk myself out of it. But it'll be like, hey man, you have to take more classes. Like, you don't have enough for your degree. And it's just me figuring out like, oh God, okay, what degree can I get? What kind of classes do I need to take? That is the entire nightmare. And it just goes on. It seems like all night. It seems like multiple nights I in a row I'll have this and then just get snapped out of it. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good experience for me, all in all. And I can't say that the education part was the good experience, because I don't think that, like I said previously, I don't think that for me and what I wanted to do, and I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I kind of did, but I wasn't fully able to articulate it to myself. But for me and what I wanted to do and where my personality was geared towards, I don't think college was the right thing for me, because I think I'm better off just going and figuring it out on my own. This sort of entrepreneurial nature, it attracts me a lot more than the managerial nature of just like going to college, putting in your time, then going into work and putting in your time to get up the ladder. It's like that is a potential. And that is something that can happen, and that is something that actually people like. Like, there are certain people that seek that out, but I am not that kind of person. So I don't appreciate my college time. And you can take out of it what you will, because I told you how I got into college. I was very much pulled back and forth between this YouTube thing. But it was never really a worthwhile experience for me. And so once I graduated, I felt this is now how I need to make this a worthwhile experience for me. Because obviously college was a worthwhile experience for me with all of the YouTube experience and the internet connections and the social circles with Missy and all that stuff that developed. But at the same time, now I needed to use it for an entirely different purpose, which was to get a job. Because for me, YouTube was never going to be a job, especially because of the fact that every summer that I had to take those 3 months of a block off, I saw people become less and less interested in my channel and what I was doing. And I also felt more and more ashamed about it, to where, those last couple summers, I was driving 30 miles up the road from my parents' house to a Starbucks with free internet and slowly uploading all of these videos and trying to do one a week. It was just so tough. That's actually one of those summers was one of the summers that I edited together all of the Phantasbros series. I had Jim come over to my parents' house and I recorded all of that. That was something I could make without internet. So again, it's hard to say how good or bad being without internet at my parents' house was for the entirety of my channel, because it did result in series like that. But at the same time, I felt like consistency would have probably been a pretty good thing. So there was so much of that going on that by the time I was graduated from college, I saw 2 bridges, and one of them looked pretty dark, and I wasn't sure if it was really a bridge. And that was the one of continuing YouTube. It just didn't, compared to this other bridge of here's where you spend all your money for college, and here's what everybody else is doing, and here's what everybody's telling you you should do. Nobody around me was saying, you should go for, you should just not work. You should just not go for a job, and you should turn your job into YouTube. You should keep this going, even though, that is a thing that people wound up doing in my position. For me, in my particular position of just exiting college, it was all right, well, I have to make this real world work now. I have to grow up, pretty much is what I decided. So I left Bowling Green with my degree, and I decided to start looking for jobs. I hopped into an apartment with Jim, the kid Laser, and lived with him for a little bit, just to get closer, again, to get away from my parents' house, to get closer to civilization, so I could apply to these jobs online and sort of send in my resume digitally without having to. I remember trying to do that at my parents', and I would go through the whole form, and then I would go to submit, and it would say, error, your connection timed out. Would you please try again? And I was just like, no, I won't try again. There's no way I can copy and paste all this stuff, so I have to individually put it into each. Oh man, it was frustrating. So I ended up going and hanging out with Jim. He was rooming with his buddy Max at the time, who had just moved to a different part of Ohio because he got a construction job. Him and his buddy Max were making music together. Jim, after YouTube and everything, he got really into music. He had a band, They're Coming that. They were cool. It was cool to see him sort of take his craft to the next level, and he was doing that alongside of his job. And I think for me, once I did eventually find a job, it was at a startup, a digital startup. They made healthcare apps and websites and stuff like that for healthcare companies. It was thrilling, I know. But I was seeing him do this. I was seeing him sort of chase his dream, which my dream has always been to sort of create and just create. If I could just create things every single day, that would be my dream. So to see him with a similar dream, just kind of geared a little differently, instead of centered around video games, more centered around music, he was going for it. And then I was looking at me, you know, here with my startup job where I was the only designer in the entire company. And my boss was an absolute narcissistic tyrant. He was completely delusional and completely psychopathic. The thing is, it's funny because you would think that maybe just because I'm the only designer and he would just take all my designs overnight and cut them and paste them in PowerPoint together and then send them to the developers, that would give me some sort of extra reason to say all those things. But the funniest thing was that everybody said that behind his back. Like everybody, every single person that worked there, and there were maybe like 15, 20 people that worked there, so it wasn't a huge company. But at lunch breaks, when he didn't go, everybody, even his dad who like basically funded this whole company for him, would say it, and nobody would say it to his face. So eventually I started saying it to his face, and then I got, you know, basically told that I should probably leave, and I started looking for another job. But through all of this, I was also just kicking myself in the face pretty much, because I was like, why am I not also on the side chasing my dreams? Like, even though I have this day job, why am I not chasing my dreams? And obviously one of the biggest reasons was because I have no energy after I get home from work. Even though I'm doing things I don't want to do and I should be able to store some energy for myself, I still like wanted to give 1000% to each design project that I worked on there, regardless of if he was going to tear it apart or not, because I knew that would make me better. And I also tried to convince myself that maybe I would be able to design what he was trying to explain. Little did I know, he just wanted to design himself. Actually, after I left that company, I kept in contact with a couple of the people, and they said they went through about 5 designers in the span of the next year, and they couldn't believe that I had stayed on that long. So it wasn't just me. It was just this weird thing about him. But anyways, I eventually got on myself enough not to get back on YouTube, because I had been away from YouTube so long, and I have this this extreme sense of neuroticism about me where I can get caught up on negative thoughts to where they just repeat themselves over and over again in my brain, and I spiral into this like void of negativity where everything just becomes super depressing to me.
I killed an enemy. Took out an enemy.
Someone's sanding?
That's me.
Is that an enemy? I was like, Jesus, someone's coming at us with a belt grinder. Nightmare worthy.
Oh man. Woo.
And YouTube got like that for me. Like, I couldn't think about you guys. I couldn't think about my YouTube channel without going into that sort of void of depression where I was like, Jesus, I've been away from it for so long. Like, there's no way I'm ever going back. Like, there's no way I could show my face to a room of people. It's like everybody just was still sitting there waiting for me to come back, and it was just a black curtain for so long that I couldn't stand to even peek my head through just for a second, even though obviously now that I have, it's been nothing but a warm and resounding welcome. So thank you guys again for that. But it was not going to happen for me at the time for YouTube. So what I decided to do instead was to go back to Twitch. I remember streaming with Twitch, on Twitch with Spelunky, when I was living with Missy forever ago, and how much fun that was, and how much of it was a different kind of way to connect to you guys. And obviously my Twitch is nowhere near the size of my YouTube channel, but I still enjoyed that connection that I have, and it was a live connection, and it also allowed me to be able to post things like Hearthstone, which is what I was really enjoying playing at the time. That was like the game that I played while I was working, and so that also didn't coincide too well with my channel. It's not like I was playing too much Call of Duty, so I didn't have too much of a reason in my mind to get back into YouTube. So instead, I went over to Twitch. I did a bunch of Hearthstone streams, and I was enjoying that. I was living with Jim at the time. Blev was about to move in with us. And everything was kind of like I was getting my groove back. I was like, oh man. And then one day I had got home from work, and I was getting ready to start up a Hearthstone stream, another one. We had done a lot, and I was actually getting into some online tournaments that they had, and I was about to stream like an online tournament. And I was my girlfriend at the time was up in my room with me, and she had gone to college with us, or she had met Missy. She didn't go to college with me, but she came up and met Missy several times. She was very good friends with Missy, and she was on the phone with somebody, and it sounded weird. The phone conversation just sounded kind of weird, and the way that she was responding sounded kind of weird. And I was getting everything ready, to stream, so I wasn't really paying too much attention, but she ended up hanging up, and she came over to me and she said, "Hey, just to let you know, I just got off the phone with Missy. That was Missy. She's in the hospital, and she said that she's not doing good. And she said that she'd like to see you sometime soon if she could." And I heard that, and I didn't properly process it. I heard it and I was just like, "Oh, okay. Missy's sick, and I'll have to see her sometime soon. Like, I'll have to figure out how to take off some time from work, and maybe in the next couple weeks or a couple months I can get out there and see her, because obviously she's gonna get better." And then 2 days later, I got a call that Missy was dead. It was a cancer, and it was really fast, and she didn't know about it for that long, and nobody knew about it for that long. So it was a very abrupt thing that I haven't talked about out loud very much, not even to like Poof or anything like that. It's just something that when it happened, I tried to acknowledge it, and I thought that I had acknowledged it, but it was weird because at the same time I was like, for acknowledging this, I'm really able to move on from it very easily. And I think the problem was that I never really fully acknowledged it. I acknowledged it for the span of, oh, okay, Missy's not going to be around this year kind of thing. Like, she's just gone for this year. But then as the years go on, it's, and you think about that person, and you think about all of the joys that they brought to you, and all of the core experiences that they gave you to such a vital part of your history as a human being. Like, Missy was the person outside of my YouTube life when I had my YouTube life.
Okay.
We got the Sander on our side, guys.
He's back there.
We have yellow armor too?
I need some more. Oh, there we go.
Half the squad's remaining.
I feel like your dad should do like a YouTube channel. All right. You just can't.
We're doing some belt sand today.
And you can't like hear a word that he says at all the entire time. All right, I'm just like talking the entire.
Talking while he's sanded. All right, time to get this started. And then he just starts sanding and has subtitles for the rest.
Yeah.
It was weird, man. It was weird to be at the funeral with all these people who, like, just a matter of like a couple years ago, if that, I had been partying with and just been seeing them in a whole new light. And it was also amazing to see because the group of friends that she had still maintained this sort of lightheartedness about them, like that even though they were clearly broken up by this, and maybe they were still just kind of like not willing to admit it fully like me, but we still, we celebrated after her funeral. Like, we all went out and we went to a bar. We just kind of like drank and reminisced about memories, and the only song she requested to play at the funeral was Bohemian Rhapsody. I remember that. But anyways, you guys, this is it. I know by now that a whole game of Apex has gone by, so I apologize for how long this is going on. This is turning into more of a brain dump than anything. But after that happened, you guys, that is what made me go dark. That is what made me turn off Twitch. I never streamed again on Twitch. I never thought about YouTube again. And I was also in the middle of trying to look for a new job, so it was just kind of like my world was completely turned upside down, and I started to question everything. That's when I started smoking cannabis for the first time. Not directly after it, but that's what led me to smoke cannabis. I got another job, and it was probably like the most ideal 8 to 5 you could ask for. It had ponds and trails and everything, and the people were great, and the atmosphere was great. And at the same time, I was just like, man, that was when after I had gotten like a dream 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever it was, and still wasn't happy. That's kind of when it solidified in my mind that I need to stop. Just like I need to also rethink this. Like I rethought everything after Missy died. Like, man, I switched jobs, and then I quit that job to go in a completely different direction. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time because the way I saw that I was the road that I was headed down as a person had been unchecked for so long. I just hadn't looked at everything that I was doing with my life from all angles. I had just looked at them from the angles that I could convince myself that it was okay. Like I had always, anytime I thought about these certain things, like, why are you doing this? Why are you going to your day job every day? What's your end goal other than to just like pay for your rent and stuff like that? Like, what is your end goal? I always would answer myself in a way that was a lie. It was like a way to trick myself. And if I could trick myself in my head at that split second of asking me that question, then that was fine. And then once I started to question everything and question, again, down to the fact of, is smoking really bad? Because I used to think that smoking, I used to correlate it directly with cigarettes. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure smoking cigarettes is bad. And I'm also pretty sure I don't want to end up like Pancake Girl over here on the Dare commercials when she smokes weed.
Sarah, what's going on here? Sarah?
So I'm just not going to smoke anything. And then, I lifted the hatch on that. Instead of just believing what everybody told me, I went out and researched it for myself. And through all of this research, I actually ended up finding podcasts, which were a great form of research because it's a more honest form of research. Because especially if you get good podcasts, like I'm sure you guys are aware of the monster one that's out there, Joe Rogan right now, but I got into him. A friend of mine suggested that back when I was working at my first startup job. He listened to Joe Rogan, and he suggested that I was listening to a couple podcasts at the time. And I think one of them was the biggest one that I listened to revolved around Hearthstone, because like I said, that was just the game that got me through work. But he suggested Joe Rogan, and then I was able to listen to Joe Rogan, and I was able to listen to him talk to these other people. And the presence that Joe Rogan commands in a room when he's talking to someone makes them into an honest person. And I don't know if it makes them into an honest person or if they just trust Joe enough to be an honest person. But when Joe is having a conversation with someone, by and large, I could pick that up and hold that and use that as a genuine conversation. And some of the things that they would address in that would actually make me turn things over in my life and reassess them and reapproach them in a different way. But one of the biggest things was where I was going with my career and what I wanted to do and what my kind of personality should actually be going for and should be doing. And through a series of oh my God, just way too many podcasts, like so many podcasts telling me that what I was doing was not what I should be doing and that I needed to go do something else. It took me so much convincing because, what does one guy know, even if he is speaking his honest truth? What does he know about me and what applies to my life? But several books and many, many podcasts later, I decided, along with Lisa, who, Puf, you might hear me refer to her as that. Puf and I, we went to middle school and high school together, and then I didn't really hang out with Lisa at all during college. We went to different universities, And also after university, I didn't really talk to anybody really. And then it was kind of like we both got into a day job. We both hated our day jobs. We both got new day jobs that we also subsequently hated for different reasons. And then we started meeting up after work and cohesively bitching about our day jobs, but also finding some solace in the fact that we were both trudging through the same kind of trenches day after day after day. And then once that sort of companionship wasn't enough, like we're in a shitstorm together, but it's actually still a shitstorm. Once we got to that point, it was like, okay, we need to figure out a way to build a sturdy enough umbrella or to just get a boat and get the hell out of here. And so we decided to take the boat route. And that's when we bought Voldy, our van. And I'm sure you guys have heard at least a little bit about our little Voldemort that we've traveled the country in, and that has led us out here to Colorado. But yeah, that was a time where once Puf and I decided to quit our jobs, I not only separated myself from YouTube and from Twitch, but also from my gaming PC, also from my PlayStation 4, also from my cell phone. I got rid of my cell phone. Obviously, I wasn't watching any cable television or anything like that. Now, I had a DSLR camera and I had a MacBook that I could edit the pictures and video that I took from the DSLR camera. It used to just be for, initially I was just taking pictures, and then I ended up slowly taking video, and then that is what sort of eventually transitioned me back into technology. And that's just something that I do. It's like I said in the beginning of whatever you want to call this at this point, it's beyond a commentary. But I sort of mentioned that I have this extreme experimentation to me where I will just, much like I did in high school when I was playing basketball, and I was just like, I have a feeling that sugar's not good for you. So I'm just going to completely not eat any sugar or drink any sugar, no pop, no candy, no sweets at all. And I did that because I truly believed in the process of my experimentation. You know, it's the scientific method 101. You have a theory, you test it, and then you adjust based off the results, and you develop new theories and test them. And I thought that had good results. Like I'm saying that now, I just ate like 3 donuts yesterday on stream. So clearly I've gone back to sugar a little bit, even though I know it's not good for me. Like, I know that for a fact. So I'm going to fight that battle with my gut one day at a time, though. But I also did it for technology. I was like, I wonder how bad technology is for me, or I wonder what it's prohibiting me from being able to do. And so when I did get rid of all my technology, and when I did quit my day job, because we were saving and saving and saving, and then it was just kind of like, all right, we have enough money to get a van and build out a van that we can live in, and we have enough, and then it's like, let's get a little bit more money so we have some cushion, and then let's get the hell out of here. There was a month between me quitting my job and us getting the hell out of there, and during that month I didn't have my cell phone, and I also didn't have anything. I didn't have any kind of digital access to anything. I was at my parents' house. I was living at my parents' house. They let me live there because my rent expired, and there's like a 3-month gap where we were about to leave, but I didn't want to renew my rent for 3 more months. And so I asked my parents if I could go stay with them for a little bit. And so I was back at the place of the void of internet. And during that month where I quit my job and I had no ties to any kind of digital medium, that was the month that I pretty much stayed up in my room. And if you guys have seen Treetop Radio, the music show / podcast that Puf and I do on stream every Monday, then you perhaps have seen my guitar. That is where that came from. I was able to I sanded off the front finish of my guitar. It was so jagged and rugged and like matted and not shiny at all. It was kind of unnerving when I was doing it, but I did it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sand the front face of this down so that I can draw on it with pencil, and I want to tattoo my guitar with pencil, and that's what I did. So for a month, and I'm not kidding, it took me about a month, maybe a couple days over a month. But I would just work on it all day. I would work on it. I would also try to play it, which ended up having me smudge it a lot. But I would just because I was experiencing so many things, because like I said, I was reassessing everything. I was questioning everything at that time. So I was also uncovering a lot of things about myself, and a lot of things that I didn't realize before about who I was as a person and what life was, to where I felt like I was on top of it during that month of my life, more during that month of my life than any other time previously. I felt such a sense of clarity without having this random bzz, bzz in my pocket drawing me away, where I had to just like reach down. Even when I didn't have a text message or anything with my phone, I had this reflex where every once in a while I would just touch it. I would just reach down. I would reach my left hand down and just touch my left pocket and just tap my phone just to be sure it was there. And then sometimes I would pull it out just to check in case I missed any messages or anything like that. But without that, without the constant draw of something else's attention, I was able to do something that probably would have taken me 3 to 4, if not more, months if I would have just been trying to do it as a kind of side project or something like that. And it also wouldn't have come out as authentic and genuine, where I can look at that guitar, and to me, and I'll probably never be able to fully articulate it to anybody because we'd be here for another 8 hours if I tried to do that, but to me, each little part of that guitar says so much to me and reminds me so much about all of the things that I made it a point to bring to the forefront of my life at that time. And at that time, during that month, my grandpa actually died, which, you know, I mean, people die, right? Like, man, and at that point I was just like, man, it was weird. My grandpa was a really awesome guy, and we had some great conversations, and he inspires me to this day. He's actually one of the main reasons that I started to pick up cooking, because he was a big time chef. He's an Italian chef, so you know how that goes. But yeah, he was, you know, my grandfather was dying. Obviously, Missy dying was something that I don't think ever really left me. And I think it's going to be a long time before I can sort of look back on her as a person without selfishly wanting her to be here still, and without selfishly wanting to show you guys how great of a person she is, and to have her come and just give me advice, because I know she'd kick me in the ass about certain things, about just like holding on to things that aren't important and sort of seizing opportunities that are. But yeah, there were a lot of things that were reeling me in and grounding me as a person during that time, that I felt like I had to journal. And I've journaled before, and I still journal now, but I had to journal in a special way that would stick around with me, because most of the time when I write things, I write them down, and I have books full of just my words and thoughts. So, and I don't go back to them and read them. I just kind of write them down as a therapeutic sort of thing. And speaking of therapeutic outlets, that's kind of when I wrote a lot of songs that have never been played on Treetop Radio, because they're not Pugh's songs. She didn't create them, so she doesn't know them as well, and we don't really practice them because they were just kind of songs that came to me while I was reflecting, while I was building this guitar, and while I was going through the death of my grandfather. And they're songs that I hope to one day make something out of, but they were songs that were also they were just coming to me. It was just like I didn't even feel like what I was doing. Like, I still don't feel like I really created that guitar, like I really illustrated on that guitar. I felt like I just kind of opened myself up for a month, and I kind of let my hand do what it will, you know. And it was a very tedious, long process, and most of it was my eyes were spent so close to the guitar that I never really pulled away to entirely see what I was doing until it was almost finished. And then when it was almost finished and I had to like fill in that last little piece, because I worked my way kind of clockwise around, starting from the 6 o'clock position sort of all the way around. And when I was at about like 4 o'clock, you know, I would just stand back and I would just look at it and be like, wait a second, who did this? Because this doesn't even seem like something that I did. It just kind of seems like something I was there for, like I was an observer. But I don't know. This is starting to get real woo woo now, so I won't take it there. But all I'm trying to say with this commentary, I guess, is that in my personality, and it's part of who I am, but part of me is to part of the way that I go about trying to parse through and understand the world is to rip it apart to its very vital structures and to just get rid of all the excess until there's nothing but what you really need. And sometimes getting rid of that and seeing if you thought you really needed it, but you don't. And it's through this extreme experimentation and this process of trial and error to the nth degree that I really feel like I am able to give you guys the things that I'm able to give you, like Modern Warfare commentaries in the first place. You know, all the way back to square one. I feel like it's really come from this kind of process that's built into the infrastructure of the way that I approach life. And so I guess, like I said, I was waiting for the right time to have this conversation with you guys. I was waiting to be able to sort of blend it and transition it seamlessly somehow, but it doesn't seem like any kind of Apex footage or anything would be able to really kind of precede this appropriately. So I don't know entirely what's going to go behind this video at this point, but really it's just this commentary is just about the words, and it's just about me being able to I've kind of talked about this here and there on stream, but I never acknowledged that the fact that Missy had passed away. And that's because that was something that I didn't feel like I could say just willy-nilly. I felt like you guys really needed to know who Missy was in order to know how her death really impacted me and this channel. So and the way that I say that almost sounds like I'm trying to blame Missy for what happened, and Jesus, that's not what I mean to say at all. But I do think that she was a big part of me pursuing that extreme experiment of, okay, no technology for 3 years, go, let's see how it works. And to this day, I will say that like I don't have a cell phone. I haven't had a cell phone for multiple years, and I can say I am A-okay with that. I wish I could say I really, really don't have a cell phone, but Puf has a cell phone, so sometimes like my mom will call me through Puf's cell phone. So it's not like I have, I use it for GPS when we're driving and stuff. So I don't entirely not have a cell phone, but I do believe in my ability to get by without a cell phone quite well. And so yeah, that is one of the pluses that has come from this complete detachment from technology. And I think that's mainly to do with that month that I spent creating the guitar, where I was just like, whoa, I value that separation from the interruption of a vibration from a text message so much that I'm willing to completely get rid of that. And I have enjoyed that. And obviously, as I've trickled technology back into my life, you guys are well aware at this point that YouTube and Twitch and my whole family over here, you guys are just so amazing, and you provide such an amazing warmth on Twitch. It's just absolutely it's incredible. It's overwhelming, really. Like the generosity and the amount of love that you guys show me is just it can't be put into words. So I really felt like that was the main drive for this commentary. Like I had talked about doing this commentary, if you guys go back to the first Call of Duty commentary that I made coming back with some random footage that I got. What is up my nuggets, or whatever I titled the video. I even mentioned talking about all of this in that video, and since then I've still been trying to like find the right time, but I just didn't think in the end that there was a specific right time for me to have this conversation with you guys. If anything, it's in the past at this point. Like, I should have had it a long time ago. So I apologize. Sincerely, I apologize to each and every one of you that has taken the time to listen to all of this, and to all of those that haven't and that have never come back to my channel and that never will. I'm sorry that I was obscure and foggy and sort of mysterious about what was happening to me. I didn't know how to vocalize it. And it took me a really long time to find my voice, because aside from outside of YouTube commentaries back in the day, I really didn't have a voice. I wasn't as extroverted as I came across on the microphone. So it was an worthwhile experience for me to find that voice outside of YouTube, but it was also a long, painstaking process. That was because it's painful. It's painful to admit that the way that you've been processing and perceiving the world up to this point has been wrong in any given way. Like, as soon as you find out that you're wrong about something, try being okay with that. It's very hard. So I was wrong about a lot of things. I had to burn off a lot of dead wood that was just weighing me down as a person, and I was able to like a phoenix, rise through the ashes in a way that I feel more myself now. I feel like the direction that I'm on is a direction that is more the direction that I want to be going than I've ever wanted to be going. You know, like, this is what I was born to do in some form or fashion, and I need to continue to mold this and work on this. And so that's what's brought me back, because I found in that 3-year absence that the one thing that I was missing about technology was my ability to create things with technology, and to also be able to hopefully share that in a positive way with somebody else. And I'm hoping that that this commentary did that in some way. I know it was a bit boo-hoo at some points, and I apologize for that. But at the same time, this is what happened. If you guys wanted to know what happened during the radio silence, that's it, man. That's pretty much it. And if you have any specific questions, or if I went into too confusing of a tangent at some point and you really didn't understand something, please feel free to either leave it in the comment section of this video, which I will try to address as quickly as possible, or to drop by the stream and say something to me in person. Either way, I thank you guys so much for, again, continuing to be a part of my life and a part of this channel. And I hope to bring a lot more videos into the future of this. So thank you guys, and I love you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, Nuggets.
Chances, so don't play no fool. I can't win no community chest. Well, what the hell you gonna do? My daddy showed me Elvis. He said I'm doing it wrong. Well, how the hell am I supposed to know what I'm doing? You've been gone so long.